Have you ever experienced something so strange that you don't even bother speaking to anyone about it because you think they won't believe you anyway? This is the story about one of my boarding school experiences that I haven't shared with anyone until now. Simply because when you hear it, one of the following two things will happen. Either one, you'll be in denial, you won't believe the story, or two, you'll believe the story, but you won't be able to sleep tonight. So many creepy events have taken place in this world that simply cannot be explained. Let's go back a couple of decades from now, 36 years to be exact, the times when South Africans were still living under apartheid rule, which meant that people of different races were not allowed to mix, and whites were given privilege over all other races. At a school like the one I went to, only white people were able to afford to send their children to such a prestigious school in those days. However, there were a few black students that were there on scholarship, like Thomas, the boy of the story. Thomas was a 13-year-old boy who first attended the school in the early 80s. The sorting hat placed him into the same house I would eventually be placed into. Okay, we didn't have a sorting hat, but like students were placed in different houses based on their personalities and traits. So it was kind of a Harry Potter situation, but in South Africa and like no magic. Thomas was a boy who took the opportunity he had and grabbed it with both hands. He was so determined to make the most of his opportunity and make his parents proud by being one of the few black kids to succeed in what was at that time considered a whites-only society. But as you'd imagine, with the racism levels in the country climaxing around that time of the century, his success was fully limited and his development as a person was hindered. It was after the first 2 months in boarding school when Thomas began to experience severe bullying for nothing other than the fact that he was black. Prefects would humiliate him and make him do all sorts of embarrassing things in front of everyone. Whenever he received a parcel of food from his parents, who could hardly afford to pay for water or electricity, some rich kid from a privileged background would come and take it away just because they had a sense of entitlement. Thomas hated the school with a passion, but being there was still more of a privilege to him than most other black children in his social class had at the time. As time went on, the bullying kept getting worse and worse and worse. One morning in class, he was awarded the most improved student, and this was an achievement he couldn't wait to show his parents. Later that afternoon, Thomas was in his room in his dormitory, which was on the 3rd floor of the boarding house, when he received news that his parents had come to see him and were waiting downstairs in the common room. With so much excitement in his mind, he ran down the stairs with his most improved student certificate, and out of nowhere, another boy shoulder budges him, and Thomas fell at his parents' feet from 3 stories high, and that was the end of his life. Thomas died with anger, hunger, frustration, sadness, and many unanswered questions in his mind. And when you put somebody to rest who's not ready to rest, they don't rest.